let me do a part two to this mental health piece, because some of you seem to think that you all together, that you really have just everything just down to the science when it comes to being a prophet or prophetic. Let me tell you something about prophets and prophetic people. We go through so many mental issues. You go through oppression. You go through depressions. You have to learn the power and the authority that you have. So the devil oppresses you and brings you to a state of having his foot on your neck until you recognize that you have the power and the authority and that he belongs under your feet. But you go through. Sometimes I look at God, and this is not an insult to God, because I know the God is God, but I think God got mental issues in some areas, because some of the things that God tells us to do when he already know that we can't do it without him, why would you tell me to do something that you know good and well that I don't know how to do? Like, I think that God is schizophrenic in some areas, because he'll tell you to do this, and then he'll tell you to do that, and then he'll add on this, and then he'll add on that, even though God does not change his mind unless God decides to change his mind, like he did with the people in Nineveh who he was going to destroy, and he sent Jonah. Jonah had mental health issues. You know, Jonah ended up in the belly of a fish. You ain't gonna tell me Elisha ain't have mental health issues. You ain't gonna tell me Elijah ain't have mental health issues. You ain't gonna tell me that Jesus ain't had mental health issues with all the things that he had to go through, all the things that he had to endure on a daily basis. And that's why he went and got before the Father, to keep them Pharisees and Sadducees out of his head, and all of their negativity, and all of them trying to crucify him and trying to stone him and trying to do all of these things, and accusing him and calling him Beelzebub and all of these different things. You think that listen, you got mental health issues. You got mental health issues from your emotions to your very soul. Your emotions jacked up. One minute you're rescuing and calling down fire from heaven, and the next minute you're hiding under a tree. You're giving out authoritative words and going against the king and telling them what God has said. And then the next minute you're weeping and crying and saying you give up on all of this and you ain't going to do it no more and things of that nature. You're delusional. Many of us are egotistical. Many of us have grandiose thoughts and complex. Oh God, I am the only one. Everybody else is doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm the only one that's following your will. Some of us are very, very, very insecure. We have insecure issues because we know we're gifted, but we're not sure of the gift. And then when you're sure of the gift, you don't want to be oversure of the gift, so you're insecure of between being gifted and being over gifted. Many of us are very arrogant, and arrogant is something that the true prophet has to fight like a champion, because you have the potential, because of all you see, because of all you know, because of who you think you are when we are powerless without God, because God is pouring and flowing out of you, and you think that you're the only one, and all of these things begin to come together and gang up and make you believe that your delusional mind is that you don't need for God to really show up in the midst of everything, because some things you can do by yourself. You're delusional. You make up stuff. You see stuff that you see, but then you add on. You hyperbole. You hype up things, and you add on to things. And God tells you to shut up and sit down, and you keep on going in the flow until you recognize that the spirit that God has lifted off of you, and that you have no more anointing on you. Many of us have been rejected. How do you think that you are just exempt of mental health issues when you've been rejected and you've been abandoned and you've been in situations where you're the black sheep and people just threw darts and threw arrows and rejected you and didn't want you and just walked away from you and left you, and just all different types of things? But you think you don't have no mental health issues? If you don't have no mental health issues, I can guarantee you that you either not human or you ain't no prophet. And I know that's bad grammar, but you are not who you think you are. I don't care how powerful you are. And if you are powerful and you think more highly of yourself than you ought to, and you don't see any type of mental health in you, and you don't see any type of issues with God, where you think that sometimes God, listen, okay, let me say this. God is a jealous God. He has every right to be jealous because of who he is. But you don't think that's egotistical? That God is so jealous because of the things that he does and because of who he is? Why would God need to be jealous? But he is. That ain't mental health. But in the same token, it may not be mental health in the way that we describe mental health. It's mental health because we need for God to be a jealous God for our mental health, so that we stay on the right track, so that we are about his business, so that we stay in respect and in the grounds of who he is, knowing that he is jealous and he will share his glory with no other. So it's really protecting us that he is jealous and that he shares his glory with no other. But it still doesn't mean that it doesn't look like, when you look at it from the right perspective, that God got mental health issues. But since God is a spirit, God don't have no mental health. God knows exactly what it is that he is doing. But when you look at it from a human perspective, it looks like God is grandiose and have egotistical, insecure tendencies. But he can't, because he's perfect and because he's God. Now look at you. You don't think more highly of yourself than you ought to. Every prophet sometimes think more highly of themselves than they ought to. Because we look at other people's flaws and we look at other people's inability to do a thing. And some of us, we're naive and we think that everybody should be doing what it is that we're doing. So we say things out of our mouths. And I know many of you, you don't like what I'm saying. But I don't care. Because you're not a prophet without mental health issues. You're not, matter of fact, you're not even fivefold ministry. Because if you a pastor, I know you got mental health issues. Because them goats and them rhinos that you a pastor at, it's not funny, but I'm saying it is. When you think about the teachers have the tendency to, because they know what they know the lexicon, they know Greek and Hebrew, they know the original Aramaics, they know language that don't nobody else can't figure out. But if you ask them, they gonna try to give you a teaching on what it is that they don't even know themselves. You got evangelists who think that they can fly off chandeliers and just walk into anybody's place and just save everybody. And while that's a good drive to have, it's not a good drive for you to believe that everybody wants to be saved because they see you coming. So you don't see the mental issues in that. Even the apostles, we have this thing where you want to go and save everybody and build for everybody and do for everybody. You want to put on your Superman cape and go and fly and build and construct and architect and be the apostle of apostles and the apostles of prophets and put everybody in check, and the chief apostle has arrived and here we are, and they got a whole bunch of gifts because they are fivefold ministry wrapped up in the apostle, till they just got all kind of delusional, grandiose, egotistical, arrogant, judgmental, all different types of things that need to be checked. We all need to go see a shrink. So don't you ever think that because you are a prophet, you ashamed to tell somebody you got mental health. Baby, whether you believe it or not, you got mental health. And if you don't believe that you got mental health issues, that's the problem right there. That should let you know, oh, I got mental health issues. I can't even see the issues that I have. Everything you done been through. Or, like I said, you don't belong to God. And you ain't a prophet of God. You might be a prophet, but you ain't a prophet of God. If you can't look in that Bible and see how messed up just about every prophet, every person used by God was, even Samuel, all